Nsem-Pii TV nie.
Paul Adom Ochri, a astute journalist and a legal analyst. In somewhere Kosovo court, upe munchiri mu ye padia. I just say ukoko PMO Paul Adom Ochri so ye. Now breaking it down, ye Emma wo etiasie. Now you may ye in Nsem-Pii every justice if you say was between ruling and audit to ja obia any enkoso na obia so enka ho asem. Nina ever Justice Yonny Kulendi, no Justice of the Supreme Court of Ghana. Kwaya fa so free Godfrey the what damn eba ni fie. Now sound so free one cousin Richard Japan. Na one ye due diligence. I coffee fans all this brouhaha by the NDC say Tony General and the person or dada Richard Japan man can be Emma to force him a quatrino. Now Paul Adomochiri address ye. Justice if you are between ruling on the two, it has made clear the impact of Adia Justice Yonny Kulendi by inviting Attorney General to his office. Now, Attorney General looks up to Justice Yonny Kulendi as a father figure, as a mentor, and a man who copy move you. But if you know copy and no, and I go fast and sing win Edia Kwakoba. Na yenko tie Nsema Paul Adomochiri area tuja concerning this whole Yonny Kulendi brouhaha in the ongoing ambulance saga.
Statements made that you and you've been meeting me at my cousin's place at minute 10:45, etc. When studied closely, together with Jakpa's alleged attack of conscience, did not proceed from the mouth of the Attorney General. So the judge is saying that Attorney General said, I'm not helping you. I don't need to help you make my case. These things that Jakpa said, including saying that I've been meeting you at my cousin's house, that's Justice Kulendi's house. Justice Kulendi and Mr. Jakpa are cousins, and that's where they met several times before the phone conversation. So he made the point. It was Jakpa who told us in the tape that it's Justice Kulendi's house that they were meeting. And the judge refers to that. He says at my cousin's place, and he says that all of those things that they allege, it didn't come from the Attorney General. All of what came from him was that I am not asking you to help me make my case. Okay, all right. What might cause some discomfort, she says, is the fact of having the discussion in the first place. That is an interesting point that the judge raised. We are going to deal with it. He says, what might cause discomfort is the fact of having the conversation in the first place. Now, who do we lay this matter on? As far as I'm concerned, if there's a blame, or if we have to attribute the circumventing actual damage from the good relationship that Godfrey Dame has with Yonny Kulendi is what the judge is referring to. The judge says that what might cause some discomfort is the fact of having the discussion in the first place. And that is kind of true. But the discussion was had in the first place because two men, one looking up to each other, to the other as a mentor. The Attorney General looks up to Justice Kulendi as a mentor. As a result of that, and as a result of Justice Kulendi's family interest in Richard Jakpa, because it's his cousin, the Attorney General succumbed to meeting Richard Jakpa and creating a familiarity with him. It is on that basis. Without the Attorney General, the Justice of the Supreme Court coming in, Justice Kulendi coming in, Attorney General will never speak to Richard Jakpa. In fact, if we publish the text again, the one that the NDC obscured, they didn't show it. It was Richard Jakpa who sent the Attorney General text and said that, my name is Jakpa. I am the one that you have helped to secure bail. I am a cousin to the judge, and that I would like to see you. And the Attorney General says that, yes, I will contact you through. In fact, he even refused to confirm the meeting on the text. He said, hold on, I will contact you through your brother. So the judge has a right to raise this matter. And we have a responsibility to explain to our viewers why this causes discomfort for the judge. It will cause discomfort, but the discomfort has been occasioned as a result of a trust relationship. I don't know whether we should all be careful about the relationship that we trust going forward. I don't know whether many lawyers are going to be concerned about the relationship of trust, because in the legal fraternity and in terms of prosecuting and law, lawyers have relationships, and that's why you see two lawyers argue in a case, and for laymen, they think that they hate each other. But will be explaining some of these things to us in a minute. They go out in the court and they say, Charlie, but you, why? Why do you talk like that? It's by you. You say, listen, we want to settle. So my client wants to settle. So, and you see the lawyers talking under a tree, and the clients look at them and say, hey, lawyer for any bonio, that's why they will go to hell. Understand it. That is why a counsel can walk to a judge and say, my lord, I need you to adjourn this thing. I'm not feeling too well today. The guy will say, oh, you think so? Call the other lawyer. The other lawyer comes. They were fighting 1 minute ago. He said, what is happening? He said, oh, Paul says he wants to adjourn. He's not well. He said, ask for him every day. He's not well. What's wrong with you? He says, oh, I don't have my head. He said, oh, your head is paining you. I have paracetamol in my car. You will see the opposite lawyer go and take paracetamol and give it to the other lawyer. And they were fighting 1 minute ago. That is not the reason why they will go to hell. That is how their work is. So because the Attorney General sees Justice Kulendi as his mentor, and so he goes to Justice Kulendi's house all the time. If Jakpa comes and Jakpa says, oh, I'm Justice Kulendi's brother. Say, oh, you're Kulendi's brother. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Let me see what I can do. Let's meet in Kulendi's house. So they meet there and say that, listen, Mr. Jakpa, you need to follow the theory of the case. The theory of the case is that the documents that you have, Seabed, whatever his company is called, that document is not part of the documents that went to Parliament. So that the deal that Parliament approved did not include your company. Somebody smuggled your company into it. And you will need to admit that before the court. And then he says, I cannot admit that. He says, well, if you cannot admit that, forget about it, because that's the fact of the matter. It's verifiable, it's provable, and all these things is happening in front of the Supreme Court judge. And that is why Godfrey Dame opened up to him. So after meeting him several times in the Supreme Court judge's house, he places a call to Godfrey Dame and he'll pick up and say, oh, that's Jakpa. He'll pick up and say, hey, Master, how are you? It's Attorney General, please, tomorrow is called to say, yeah, tomorrow. And then they start talking. So it is okay for the judge to raise this matter. But it is now an opportunity for to demonstrate. She also has relationships and she knows how these things build up. So that's the part. It says what might cause some discomfort is the fact of having the discussion in the first place on live matters before the court, and the fact of the Attorney General having asked Jakpa to seek medical excuse at the 14th to 15th minutes so as to be absent from court. Be that as it may, she says, the matters alluded to in the conversation and the fact of it, with the Attorney General being a lawyer, are matters which do not fall within the remit of the criminal proceedings and the duty of this court. Beautiful. So Godfrey Dame and Richard Jakpa's lawyers now have the opportunity to appear before the General Legal Counsel, and Godfrey Dame will say that I spoke to him. Yes, I did, because I had met him on the platform of Justice Yonny Kulendi, whom you all know and whom you all respect. How many of you in this room in the General Legal Counsel will Justice Kulendi place a call and say that Jakpa is my cousin, can you come to my house, let's understand his case? How many of you will decline that invitation? If I were Godfrey Dame, that's what I'll tell the General Legal Counsel. How many of you would decline that invitation? If the high and mighty Yonny Kulendi, Justice of the Supreme Court, calls you the prosecutor, you are already his mentee for many, many years. Not because he's Supreme Court judge and you are Attorney General. You are his mentee before he became Supreme Court judge. You are his mentee before you became Attorney General, or Deputy Attorney General for that matter. And then now you're Attorney General, you're Deputy Attorney General, you become Deputy Attorney General. Now he calls you and says, Attorney General, please come and let's discuss this matter. Why would you decline such an invitation? So yes, the judge says that that domain of the General Legal Counsel. It says it falls under the ambit of the Legal Profession Act, which makes the General Legal Counsel the body responsible, as the prosecutor has shown to have behaved in such an egregious manner that the Atuforson's right to a fair trial has been in jeopardy. She answers the question. The conversation before the court in Exhibit CAF2 took place in the last few weeks or months, long after the court had made a determination on the prima facie evidence that all the accused persons had a case to answer, and that Atuforson had even mounted a spirited defense and closed his case. Jakpa is yet to conclude his evidence because there were issues with filing of his witness statement and case management, as is borne out by record. In the circumstances, his lordship says, and having in mind the issues at stake in the trial, being ambulances that all parties acknowledge are of no use in the condition that they were delivered, the circumstances and the justification of which is the subject of the instant trial, and how far this case has traveled before the conversation that sparked these applications came to be, I should think not. She's answering the question, given the circumstances, her duty as a judge is to check whether this tape conversation, whether they are alleging the words used by the Attorney General or the conduct of it as a whole, whether this matter has put Atuforson's fair trial, the fairness of the trial, which is a constitutional obligation imposed by the court and indeed imposed on the Attorney General as well, that every Ghanaian should have the right to fair trial. That's a duty imposed by the Constitution, and it's imposed on the court and it's imposed on the Attorney General. The judge is evaluating the evidence of the tape and trying to ventilate it and asking herself that, can these circumstances put together, can they mean that Atufosin's rights to fair trial has been jeopardized? And she answers the question in the negative. And she gives a reason why. She says that by the time the conversation took place, Atufosin has told the court that he has no case to answer. The court has told him, you have a case to answer. He has finished answering the case. He has closed the evidence. He has closed it. So that's the end of Atufosin's case. What is left next is for Atufosin to be told whether he is guilty as charged. Sorry. Sorry about that. What is left is for Atufosin to be told that he is guilty as charged. That's it. It will come again. At 10:25. Okay. So that's where we are. That's what the judge said. Atufosin, you are done. Nothing can change it. Whether the Attorney General somersaults in the phone conversation or jumps up and down or Japa throws the phone into the sea or he turns it to somebody to record a tape, all of those things, it wouldn't matter because you have actually closed your case. So there's no way in which your matter can be jeopardized. Every record is before the judge and the judge is going to rule accordingly. So, viewers, this is the circumstances of the matter. This is the end of the story. So this is where we are. So the case has resumed. Today, the cross-examination of Japa continued by lawyers for the first accused. All of that is going on now. All three applications were dismissed. About the tape conversation, the judge had issues with the conversation happening at all, that matter. And I have explained that matter to you that. And she said that she's not the one to make that determination. Listening to it as a judge, she feels that, but why would the Attorney General have a conversation with somebody like that? Anyway, it's not my matter. The General Legal Counsel can deal with it. As for me, I'm dealing with the substance of the case. And the General Legal Counsel will deal with it. They are an arbitration sort of panel. And they are going to hear the real evidence. They are going to hear how many times Godfrey Dame met Japa in Justice Kulendi's house. What was the circumstances of the meeting? Who chaired the meeting? What conversations had at the meeting? Could these conversations have bred a certain familiarity between the Attorney General and Richard Japa? If it did, was it a familiarity that was free from manipulation of the case, etc., etc.? That's what they are going to look at. So maybe Godfrey Dame trusted too much and thought that Richard Japa was Justice Kulendi's brother, and therefore his mindset was like Justice Kulendi. That's how it works. When you know people and they tell you that this person is my person, you usually assume that they are like them. So I think that he wrongly assumed that Richard Japa, being Justice Kulendi's cousin, will carry the same candor, the same discipline, the same dignity that Justice Kulendi carries. That was Godfrey Dame's problem. And tomorrow morning I'll tell him, I'm going to look for him and tell him, Mr. Dame, your problem was that you thought that because Kulendi has candor, Kulendi is a decent man, Kulendi is a scholar, and so because Kulendi said this is my brother, you mistakenly thought that because he is Kulendi's brother, he too is like Kulendi. It doesn't work like that. I've learned the lesson. I'm sure other people are learning. And tomorrow morning, I'll tell him about that. Now, though, at 28 minutes past 10 o'clock, Bafo has been here with us for a long time. Let's talk to him.
Be the first to know Nsem-Pii TV.